We're going to talk about looking back, looking forward, tech and industry developments, and our survey. We have Warren, we've got Kevin, we've got Alexis, we've got you, Max, here. Warren, I think we should do this with the survey.
We launched it at the Halloween mixer, so it was for about 6 weeks, and it was out to colorists for probably, I think we suggested 5 of their projects during that time.
How did you start your journey as a colorist? And let's deal with the larger 2 pieces of the pie. And we'll just open it up discussion as we go. First, the 2 biggest is started as an assistant and learned from a senior colorist. And the other one, which is just about as big, started as an editor and slowly moved across. Any thoughts, gentlemen?
No, let's move on.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll go through the entire slide and then I'll leave it open for comments with that one.
No. I like the little graphic bottom right there, Mexico, Sydney, UK, New York. But
yeah, where are you from? There's a lot of LA, but there's a lot of New York, a lot of Sydney, a lot of Mexico, a lot of Chicago.
Yeah, I mean,
Singapore.
Let's skip through a few because this is going to be available on our colorist site. And
sure.
What other ones have we got there? What is of interest? The cameras,
sure,
probably?
I will say, just before we go on, how long you've been grading. I do think it's very interesting to see how many people have been doing it for. Wow, I can't see the numbers there, so I'm useless. So I'm going to go to the next slide. What camera footage are you grading? Number 1 with a bullet is Alexa.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit closer. It's definitely closer than it would have been 5 years ago.
It is, but it's also the black magic stuff, I think, is broken out a little bit.
Yeah, and the Venice is definitely making an impact in episodic stuff.
And the big 2 genres are commercial and documentary.
Yeah.
And about, let's call it a 50-50 split. Are you delivering it, or is it going back to a finishing artist? About half are saying I just color and half are saying I finish and do the color. So those finishing skills are probably really valuable for every colorist out there.
Right, that was half, was it? Yeah, I hadn't seen that one. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, I do need to brush up on my finishing skills, Jeff.
It really depends on the teams, right? Sometimes when you are working in a small team, sometimes you have to multitask a little bit, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't have the guy or girl down the corridor, do you? Like in the post house days. Like
yeah,
a lot of us would have done. You doing these things, and I always say, if you can do it, the client's probably going to go, great. You know, they don't have to go look for someone else. So the more you can cover, you're going to make yourself more useful.
Exactly.
Well, I think the other factor is turnaround, right? Turnaround is just so much shorter than it's ever been, that you get the question more, I think, as a colorist. Hey, is this something you can take care of? There's this, there's this bit of hair on somebody's sweater. Can you quickly paint that out? There's this thing in the background. Is there something you can do about it? If you can say yes, everybody likes you. And more to the point, who wants to send it down the hall and do another round trip back to your room again? Like, I'd rather just do it, right? And I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the question is, where does the buck stop? And I think as we've moved into full-on DI workflows, and there is not really a need to go back into editorial to do the finishing, then the colorist is expected to make fixes. And often, the way that it would be done if it could go back to visual effects or if it could go back to editing may not be the same as the way it's done in the grade, but that is the workflow. And it's much more common nowadays for the colorist to be the last person in the chain, and they simply don't have time to go back and do another iteration, as Alexis says, of round tripping it.
I think the one thing that's really fascinating, though, is that we're all working from home. I mean, we're seeing some return, but it's making I have to exchange it with another person, and these are the highest of high-res assets. Makes it even a little harder for it not to be the colorist who's doing the finishing. What codec are you rendering to?
Yeah, 422
ProRes
HQ was top.
4x4, how you getting the
Yeah.
footage into your system, a lot of XML, a lot of AAF, a lot of XML AAF over anything else.
Yeah,
Only 20% are saying edit and grade in the same tool.
color management. Whoa.
This is the one that got you and I, talking about why you should talk about color management was 25%
Yeah.
aren't using it at all.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
I think the
But they will
takeaway on
be
that,
soon.
though, the takeaway on that, though, is that, if you'd asked that question maybe 2 years ago, 75% weren't using it. So
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a definite pickup there. And by next year, by this time next year, I'm going to guess that's going to go down to under 10%, I would say.
Yeah,
I think it's a pretty fair answer.
Yeah,
I
I'd
agree with
say, well,
that.
that's interesting on the editing used in the shows, because Resolve would have been nowhere 5 years ago, would they? Like, I don't think no one had cut anything, and now they're above FCP 10.
It's almost 25%. That's really cool.
Well, one of the last things I was involved with in the last days of the development of Resolve 17 was trying to find a UI to make color management more accessible to people who didn't understand it. And that was an effort I was deeply involved with. And I'm very happy with where that ended up, because to my mind, the biggest barrier to adoption of color management was just, if you've got 19 parameters, you're just going to throw your hands up and click off. But we managed to simplify that in a very powerful way that I think resonated with enough people to take a chance on trying it out and realizing the benefits.
And 8% of people still using Final Cut 7.
That's always wild to me. That's
Wow.
just crazy. I mean, it's like a parasite on the industry. Oh, wait, that was the film that won the Academy Award for using Final Cut 7. I'm not saying it in a bad way, Alexis. I'm saying that it's kind of interesting
that it was
an
used
Academy
to edit Parasite. Yes.
Yeah, in like, in 2019, 2020, that's just wild to me.
It is
as a thought.
amazing to me. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to me, as someone who used to work with the Final Cut Pro team and who used that until I just felt like it was time to move on. It's shocking to me that it still has a life. I mean, gratifying, but frankly shocking.
Yeah, this monitor one's interesting as well. I mean, that's completely changed.
I found this probably the most interesting answer.
In 5 years.
Nearly, what is that? Over 35% of the people responding are using an LG CX type TV as their grading display. Now I'm assuming that those are all going to be SDR. They may not be, but I'm going to say that most of them are SDR, and there's no doubt that it calibrates really well. But yeah, that's a big surprise to me, at least, because it goes away from the professional the professional reference monitor that we've grown up with, and especially because the CX LG CX OLEDs do not have SDI inputs on them. Which I know in the bigger facilities is often a sticking point.
Yeah, no, that's calibrate display 6 months is about right. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's higher than I expected, but it's good to see.
Yeah. Remote grading process number 1 is Zoom. That's a bit scary.
Warren,
scary,
I actually think the next one, that 20 or so % never do remote at all.
I know a couple local colorists here in the Minneapolis area that are using Zoom. And it's one of those just any port in a storm situations where the client doesn't want to be bothered, dealing with something they're unfamiliar with. And they tell me it's been working okay. They mainly just want to kind of see what's going on and be able to give loose notes. And then they still approve the final file later on.
But how do they share they screen share? Is that what they do?
Yeah, they're screen sharing. Like it's
like
the most slovenly workflow in the world. you know,
Yeah.
from a Hollywood perspective, but it's working. People are getting paid.
And not
Yeah,
at
it's
all
like we
secure
do-
either.
Yeah, it's like we do the training. It's the same thing. You screen share and they watch it and go, yeah.
I think it's a little difference to actually making decisions, though. I mean, I always
Well,
say,
we're
in
talking
one
about
sense.
corporate work, right? It's easy to think that like, oh, the whole world is doing ultra secure Marvel projects, but in a lot of smaller secondary markets, you know, you're doing stuff where the adjustments aren't as bold and the requirements are just at a different level, and security isn't a huge hassle. You know, the exec just wants to see what's going on. So I get it. I mean, I wish there were
yeah.
better solutions that were more affordable, but I
And-
get why people are doing it.
Max, what
IMIO
do
is
you
one of
see
those
with
solutions,
remote?
isn't it, Alexis?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's not live. That's the difference. Like I love being able to upload a file and have people see it correctly, but it's still not a
Did you-
live solution.
Did you say, Alexis, it's not live yet?
I mean, you know, there was a presentation that was given indicating that live was on the, you know, something in development. But I can't say any more than that.
No. And Max, I got a question for you. What do you see remote collaboration with the software that you're involved with, Maxwell?
You mean remote grading?
Well, remote grading or any software, really, a collaboration of users.
Yeah, to be honest, we were still, I mean, the most majority of chunk of work is still done through the, how do you call it? The platform like Zoom, but it's more like something that you have internally, like Microsoft Teams or similar stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's still the case.
Yeah.
I do think it's really interesting this year. I don't know how much. I'm sure, Alexis, you've looked at it. I don't know if the other three of you have. I've been looking at the Dropbox integration with Resolve and in general, and it's got some of that. You know, it's we're losing customers to people being Frame, and now Adobe. We're losing customers to people who are already paying us money. Let's add some low-level functionality, and it's not bad. It's not as full featured, but it's interesting to see how many people are using Dropbox. It's also very interesting to see WeTransfer and Google Drive, which I struggle with either of those, but that's me.
No. I hate Dropbox, mate. It annoys the hell out of me. It wants me to pay them money all the time. I don't give up. You know, they're just always asking me, you need to upgrade to this, you need to do this. Even if I'm trying to receive something, I don't want to store it in my Dropbox. I just want to get it. No.
Good answers. Good point.
WeTransfer, very nice.
Yeah, and there's a number of more secure ones. So there's the Sony one, CI is quite good, and you can encrypt that and at least put passwords and things on it and monitor it more securely. And pCloud is another one. And these are ones that I use that clients have come to me and said, you know, this is what we use. But at least they give you some sort of control. You know who's opened it, you know who's copied it, and you can limit who gets it. But of course, none of these are live solutions, so they don't fit the bill for remote grading in that sense.
In the chat, by the way, somebody said, I think it was Faith, said, I don't see NDI on the list.
Yeah.
So,
Any thoughts?
terrible, isn't it? I don't know who wrote the questions.
It was Faith. Faith mentioned it here, but I've been playing around with some NDI around my home office in the house. But I could see it being that I'm going to send an NDI signal to somebody outside soon too. But that's a homegrown sort of stuff versus these turnkey, let's go systems.
Yeah, and there are some very good turnkey systems. I mean, in the UK, mostly it's SohoNet and Colorfront. You know, they both do really good calibrated streaming boxes.
Yeah.
And again, I think from what I've seen of those, HDR is going to be a big factor in the take up. because those are, at least the color front box, what I like about that is it allows you to stream an HDR signal and then show SDR on an HDR screen or HDR on an SDR screen. So that's kind of a cool way of dealing with these new color managed sessions and being able to spit out different profiles for different users.
Let's talk about charging. How much is your facility bill an hour, and how and when do you invoice?
So
I'll tell you
30
that
days terms, that's pretty normal.
yeah, but the ones that are 60 days and more make me uncomfortable, Kevin.
Yeah, me too. I wonder what part of the industry those are in, because as a freelancer, I'll be very unhappy with 60 days, although it
No,
often
that's-
stretch to that. But
I know it does. It's sad, isn't it?
That last bit, though, used to be, I think, higher after the job is completed with a discount for immediate payment. There have always been some corporations that go, if somebody's offering you a discount to pay earlier, you pay that bill first.
yeah, I think that's a good plan. And the one thing that I can say is I've never had any success in charging a penalty. So the way to word it is, it's this much and you get a discount if you do it early. That the carrot seems to work better than the stick in this case.
Yeah.
It's mainly because the corporations that pay 60 days and more are usually big corporations, and it's pretty hard to threaten them with that stick because they know they've got bigger guns than you.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the best slide of them all.
And this is the most
What do you like
important
best about the What do you like best about the Colorist mixer?
Getting drunk and partying. It's pretty
one. My
big
sort of
there.
people. Yeah, absolutely.
There's
Well, I'm
nothing
glad
else
to have
like
been
it.
able to contribute to that.
Yeah,
we were
surely.
lamenting over in cocktail crowd that we weren't drinking yet.
No, I'm a bit late to the party.
Well, it's
I'll
always
get one out.
afternoon somewhere, right?
I'm gonna get one.
It's
now.
always 5 o'clock somewhere, which was last year's theme, Alexis. It was last year's theme. I'm just reading through some of the ones. The nuggets are wonderful. The welcoming atmosphere, meeting other colorists. Yeah, the one thing that I think is most important about this, just in this longest term, aside from the virtual side, is, crossing our fingers that NAB is a reality that'll happen. Doing this in Vegas at some level, whether it's just informal at a bar or, a full, because that was our plan, gentlemen, was to take out, I forget the name of the hotel, and have a serious event. But there'll be something we'll do in Vegas if one of us is there, I'm sure.
April. Is
I
that
miss
still the
seeing
plan?
everyone in Vegas. I honestly do.
Yeah,
I
I
was
do miss
hoping
that
this
too.
year. Yeah. I mean, I haven't, that's the one time I see all of you. And it's just a bummer that we haven't been able to, catch that dinner or have that drink or catch up at the booth or whatever. So
Or
I'm
catch up
hoping
at a
next
booth
year.
like FSI's booth, which is our next sponsor, and I'm being told we need to move on.
Brilliant segue. Very nice,
but-
Jeff.
With a hammer. What do you want? I'd like to thank the panelists for going through and this survey, which was wonderful information. By the way, before we let this go, where can we find this survey information?
It'll be on the iColorist website at some stage.
On the iColorist website, which brings us to our friends at FSI. FSI, that first F shouldn't be for Flanders, it should be friends, because they are such genuinely nice people and they've got such great equipment. I believe we're showing a video from them.
Impressive reel.
That is an impressive reel. You know, that whole auto cow feature that they're integrating like that, that is just, it's, I don't want to
brilliant,
say it's
yeah.
going to put, I don't want to say it's going to put Greg out of business, but you know, the idea that somebody can easily,
Well, it won't
just-
put Greg out of business because it's only on FS monitors with Gaia color, but yeah, it works fantastically well. It's very quick. It's amazingly accurate, and it does your entire range of profiles. Been very impressed with that.
it's just, you know, it's, I don't know how long it takes. I haven't actually seen it in person.
It's not very long. It's like 10 to 20 minutes.
So it's literally the sort of thing, I'm not saying we would calibrate weekly or have that need, but my Lord, that you could go get coffee or lunch and come back and have it done.
Yeah. Like I say, it's really accurate, and it's right at the highest level of the display as well. So you get a good range out of it.
I'll tell you that Brian Gordon from FSI is in the chat. And Brian, what you should do is put a link so people can find where to find your guys' newsletter. I mean, we all know Flanders Scientific Site, but you might want to put the link in directly.